Okay, fabulous. I will get started. So, hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Emily from Core to Cloud, and it's great to have you joining us for today's session. So, this webinar is specifically designed for Cylera customers who want to make sure they're getting the absolute most out of the platform. But as you know, your IoT and connected medical device environments are constantly evolving, and Cylera evolves right alongside them. So, today's session is all about helping you stay ahead of the curve. We'll be taking a look at some of the latest platform updates, exploring some strategies that can often get overlooked, and some practical tips that you can take and use straight away to strengthen your use of the platform. So if you have any questions as we go, please feel free to pop them in the chat and we will pick them up at the end. So on that note, I'll hand over to Dave from Cylera, who's going to go through everything in more detail.
Afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. Thanks for joining. So as Emily said, this is for existing Cylera customers. Just an update on the technology, what we're up to, and hopefully to drive some more usage for existing customers from the platform. So with no further ado. So I just want to thank everyone for joining. So as you already have the platform, probably installing some quite busy and complicated environments. Today's about helping you guys get the most value from what you already own. So I'll try and keep this around 20 to 25 minutes. And I'll start with a quick refresh on where Cylera fits, why CAF is becoming more central, and I'll talk through some key integrations, in particular Cisco ICE and Microsoft Sentinel, as well as Equip and Splunk if we have time. And right at the end, actually, if we have time, I can give you a quick glimpse of some work that we're doing with AI and the Cylera MCP server. So you can use LLMs to generate reporting and insights into your estates. So, okay, let's kick right off. So you guys already know Cylera, but it's worth stating the value clearly. So Cylera is built for healthcare and connected clinical environments. It's not a generic IT inventory tool. It discovers medical IoT and OT devices passively. So you get visibility without agents and without interrupting clinical workflows, because sometimes when you query a device and try and interrogate it, it can just shut down, which is not what we need in a clinical environment. So on top of that, we continuously analyze risk, vulnerabilities, and behavior, and then prioritize issues in clinical environments with clinical importance and exposure. And the aim really is to help you and your partners focus on a small number of things that really matter, and not to drown you in alerts. And importantly for today, Cylera is designed to output value into the tools and teams that you guys already use in your estates, whether that's Cisco ICE or your SIEM or your SOC or your governance and assurance processes, to really add that additional value there. So to summarize quickly on Cylera, we're built specifically for healthcare environments in mind and connected clinical environments. We're passive and agentless for the discovery of medical IoT and OT devices. And we have that continuous risk and vulnerability and behavior analysis that outputs directly into some of the other applications that you will use for awareness and I guess response from a cybersecurity point of view too. So CAF compliance, and it can be a bit of a swear word depending on who you speak to within the NHS, but many of you are probably already feeling the pressure from CAF compliance and the updated CAF aligned DSPT. It's a bit of a mouthful for me this afternoon. So CAF is no longer just a document on a shelf. It's the language that boards, regulators, and national bodies now use to ask you how safe your environment and your services are. And for this, cycle, you'll have to have a baseline submission in by the end of December 31st and a full assessment by the 30th of June next year, which is, if this year's anything to go by, rattling by awfully quickly. So if you can't reach the required levels, an improvement plan on how you'll get there will be put in place, and there is the potential for organisations to be fined as well. So we're trying to prevent that. So we're here to try and make that journey a little easier. So the same device visibility and risk context you use every day can be lined up directly against CAF style questions on asset management, vulnerabilities, detection, response, and all the good network segmentation piece. And later in the session, I'll show you how our integrations can help turn that telemetry into CAF ready dashboards and evidence that you can lift straight into those conversations rather than just trying to dig into dashboards and information and export lots of raw data and try and make sense of it. It's a bit of a minefield out there, as I'm sure you guys are already aware. So how do we turn the visibility that we give you guys into action? So I wanted to start with a quick map of where Cylera sits in the integrations field and scope today. So on the network side and the network control side, Cisco ICE is really the key one. So we utilize PX Grid and AMC so that Cylera can provide rich device context into ICE, and where it's safe to do so, drive policies around quarantine or segmentation on the network. On the SIEM side, you have to have on the SIEM side, you have outbound integrations from our platform into platforms such as Microsoft Sentinel and QRadar and Splunk. And we also see use of in Google Chronicle as well, where that's already in place in some health boards. So we can actually send up to 32 details per event into your SIEM, which obviously gives you plenty of context to work with within the SOC environment. And Cylera really shouldn't be an island. It should be feeding this important information that we get from your infrastructure into the platforms that you already rely on for that for the SIEM and alerts into your SOC. So it'd be remiss of me not to start with Cisco ICE because that's where a lot of customers want to take the next step and use the information that we're providing on the infrastructure and the devices out in your estates. So recently, Cisco have published a joint Cisco community article on integrating with ICE. I was just on an hour-long call with the guys from Northumbria Healthcare, actually, and Yasser from their team has been absolutely instrumental in pulling together some overview of the integrations that they're doing with Cylera and ICE. So instead of an anonymous MAC address, ICE now knows, that's an infusion pump or this is a lab device with vendor model and type and risk associated. And then attributes can then be used in authorization policies and ANC actions to take actions within the network, make sure that the device is on the right VLAN or quarantine if the risk is too high. And that really is kind of next steps for those guys to move it into the populating the SGT groups and building further automation with Cylera and Cisco ICE. So I will share that documentation after this webinar. For those that are interested, I'll pass it out to Emily. And the work that they're doing there is really invaluable, and they really are leading the way. We have some real proof points with other customers across England and Scotland now, where custom attributes are coming through for test devices and being used to validate that journey from our platform into Cisco ICE. So ICE is no longer that science project that sits on the shelf and gets underused. It's something that you can genuinely build into your network segmentation and CAF story. So I just wanted to put this slide up as I think it's one of the nicest looking elements of the Cylera platform. So it shows you that nice kind of Sankey chart of a device and where it's communicating to, along with IP addresses, etc., etc. And at the bottom there, the device type distributions across our demo environment network and how you can quickly pull groups of devices together, whether that's with automation that we do standard out of the box within Cylera, or for adding your own custom attributes and tags and classifications. So we've got all this great intelligence within our platform. So let's use it, let's pull it out and use it to build network segmentation policy. Now, this is a really, really busy slide, and I'll let you guys read through this in your own time. But I really wanted to simplify this and kind of highlight just a few things from this slide. Firstly, we can help you protect clinical systems whilst keeping care delivery online and not yanking devices off the network. We're putting the right controls around them so you can carry on doing what you guys do and operating safely. And secondly, integrations like this reduces your attack surface and your response times. So because enforcement is can be automated and driven by context from Cylera rather than manual rules, it allows you to respond to incidents more quickly. And it also, thirdly, helps you produce a strong evidence of inventory, risk management, and network controls for CAF and DSPT, and any other assurance frameworks that might be coming your way. Um, the way it works essentially is that PX Grid within ICE acts as a secure bi-directional data sharing between Cylera and ICE, and we can publish assets through and risk data through PX Grid into ICE. ICE consumes that data and then uses it to inform policy within the network. At a configuration level, without going into every click, you could do three main things. You set your assets, pull it into the right group, and enable it to publish on an endpoint and asset topic into the ANC. So the end result is that you get security and your security and clinical engineering teams can move from being fairly reactive and to concentrating on one incident at a time and blocking, maybe access to one device if it's doing some anonymous, communication on the network, to being proactive and model driven segmentation across the whole hospital estate and based on how devices are actually used on a day-to-day basis and how much risk they present. Splunk really deserves its own slide here, and it's a big topic that we could dive really deeper into. And perhaps we'll do a webinar just on this topic in the future, just on its own, because it's so in depth. But we are working closely with Cisco at the moment and Splunk to work on a deeper integration with the team there. So on the SIEM side, integration is fairly standard out of the box. Splunk can recognize the attributes that we pull from your estate and can serve as a dashboard for reporting on them. We can feed detailed device attributes into Splunk, so every event is enriched at the time. Diving deeper into the Splunk platform, the SOAR then gives you visual playbooks that you can take Cylera risk signals from and call into Cisco ICE, for example, to quarantine or restrict a device. And that creates a closed loop where Cylera sees the risk, Splunk does the correlation and workflow, and ICE enforces on the network. And that automation piece is where we'd like to get to ultimately. We are working with Cisco closely on that. So on top of that, Splunk has OT and IoT content packs that we can align into Cylera device asset classes, so we can build CAF dashboards, giving you basically that operational view of all the device intelligence. And so Splunk is where we see a lot of the CAF and governance story landing, I think, as a front and overall dashboard for that intelligence layer, and using Cisco as the enforcement layer, which I think is really powerful. So updates to follow on that. There's a couple of other technologies here. A big ask at the moment is for integration into Microsoft Sentinel, which we do have a straightforward outbound integration. Cylera sends events into Sentinel, which enrich device and risk context. So your analytics are not just starting with an IP address. They can see that this device is an infusion pump or an imaging system and how critical it is in the clinical context. And it makes it easier to prioritize within that platform and to respond appropriately. And on the clinical engineering side, we have a formal technology partnership with Equip, which many of you know is the clinical engineering CMDB sitting behind a lot of NHS trusts. So Cylera and Integra have already been working on, we've already been on the same stand at EMBE and Expo, and we've shown the integration live. And in terms of the real-time networking and risk view, we can use eQuip as the system of record for assets for maintenance and work orders. So engineering have been working with Equip's test endpoint to get this running in our demo environment, and we are lining up some NHS pilots. So if anyone on this call in this audience is interested in taking part in that, please reach out and we can talk to you about what we can do there in terms of building that asset intelligence into the more hands-on maintenance and asset across all of your estate. So looking ahead, from Cylera point of view, there are four things I'd like to highlight for you as our existing customers. So first, we're packaging up CAF-focused reporting, so you can walk into an assurance meeting with a small number of Cylera-driven dashboards and exports that are already been labelled against CAF objectives, rather than trying to build those brand new individually and by hand every time. Secondly, we're continuing to deepen the context for Sentinel, Equip, and Splunk, and that means recommended detections, dashboards, and KPIs that make sense in a clinical context and not just a feed log. And thirdly, from a Cisco ICE point of view, we're turning our lab work into reference architecture and policies and reusable topologies that you can adopt in your own testing environments and roll out into your networks for visibility and policy enforcement. And finally, we're beginning to use LLMs such as Claude through our own Cylera MCP server to interrogate and query data from that large language model point of view. So the idea is not to replace our platform and dashboard, but to give everybody a faster way to use it and to to pinpoint the exact information that you need to pull from the platform. So, for example, you could ask, show me the current risk posture for a disconnected imaging device and tell me which CAF outcomes this evidence supports, and get a structured answer back with references to your own data, making it hyper relevant to that user's individual needs at that time and the speed to pull together very specific and detailed and targeted reporting. So I've rattled through a number of things there. Emily, could we open up the floor to any questions that we might have from the group, please?
Absolutely. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to pop them now in the Q&A box, and we will get through all of them.
Just wanted to flash my details up as well if anybody wanted to reach out for the Equip integration.
So we've had no questions come through, which I suppose is a good thing, Dave. But I think if anyone needs anything, please feel free to reach out to either Lauren or Dave directly, and we'll help wherever we can. And I suppose that really closes the webinar. Thank you very much. Oh, we've had a hand up from Jamie. Did you want to ask a question, Jamie?
Hi, can you hear me?
Can indeed.
Jamie, yes,
hello.
It was just a quick question really with regards to the asset management side. Could we use this for laptops, desktops from a wider asset management point of view rather than just clinical?
So we do see those devices. So essentially, yes, but we are more set up around medical device, IoT and OT, but we do have visibility of those devices, but you will not get the depth of contextual device attributes that you will on the medical side in the traditional IT space.
Cool. Okay. Cheers. Thank you.
And also, Jamie, just to kind of round that out as well, quite a lot of devices will be connected on Wi-Fi, and we would recommend that you don't typically open up the Cylera visibility to public Wi-Fi because, say, for example, if you're licensed for 40,000 devices, that can easily, well, we've seen it more
Yeah,
than
we exceed.
when you open up the public Wi-Fi. So it can be a bit of a minefield there.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks for the question, though. Any more coming in, Emily?
You've got no more questions as of yet. I will give a couple of seconds just in case anyone's got anything burning that they'd like to ask. We've got no hands up, but we would love to make these webinars more often, have a series going on. So please feel free at the end to ask any questions as well, or let us know prior. We want to make this as inclusive as possible. So yeah, thank you very much for your time today. And I will close the webinar now. Thank you all very much.
Thanks all. Have a good weekend.